All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Today we have a great webinar. It's all about setting goals and making those goals happen. And I want to help you do that today. We have some great content. We did a very similar webinar last month. We had such a great response. It was the best webinar of the year. Hate to just put that on the shelf and move on. So I want to do a similar webinar, and how I want this one to be different is if you could participate a little bit more, give me some feedback, put in some questions. I think that's going to help you customize your goals. So I did talk to several people after last webinar, got some really good feedback, and I just want to make some minor tweaks. So let's get started. My name is Bill Crawford. I'll do an intro a little bit later on, but I'm the owner of Rainmaker for Contractors. And here's what we're going to cover today. The importance of setting goals. I want to help you set goals and then some sub goals underneath that, and then break them out into monthly goals. I have some lead goals. I want to cover the latest trends that I see happening just kind of from my window, interacting with a lot of different basement waterproofers and foundation repair people throughout the country. And then I really want to support you in developing a customized plan. And I hope that you've already started some goal making already. That would be good. And maybe you could just take this further, all right? So that's what we're going to cover. Because the content is so good, I'm going to ask you if you could kind of shut your cell phones down, your Facebook stuff down. Personally, for me, when I have set goals, and quite honestly, I've been in the business world, you could tell by my age, more than a couple of years. The years that I set goals and specific goals and have those posted, I always make more money at the end of the year. So it's one thing to say, yeah, I have goals, but it's another thing to really focus on them and to be studying your goals and what can we do differently to hit them. So I want to encourage you to do that. Quick intro about me. I've been in the industry for 25 years. We're a premier Google partner. I co-authored a marketing automation book. I've been on the board of the Basement Health Association for over a decade as a former president. The most important thing that I think I'm bringing to you is 25 years of, 15 of being on the other side of the desk as a contractor in the Chicagoland area. Lots of employees, lots of craziness. We know how the industry is. And then at least 10 years serving clients, doing internet marketing for them, lead generation online for waterproofers and foundation repair people. So, first question of the day, what is the hardest part about online lead generation? If a thought comes to your head, please open up your chat and just put that in there. Whatever comes to mind. What's challenging about it? Nick, Alan, come on, put that in there. Here's what I get. Let me show you some things that I get. Like way too many choices. I've been in the industry long enough to, we had lots of telemarketers, we did canvassing, we did shows all the time, always hustling, and all sorts of other lead generation, right? So what we do at Rainmaker is this thing in the middle that you can see on your screen. We always start with making the website that it's converting as best as possible. We do local SEO, Google ads, Facebook ads. We make sure your reviews are getting everywhere so you have a stellar online customer review reputation. We nurture and leads and do social media, and we track them so that you know what your ROI is. You got to know, I'm spending this money, what am I getting in return? Now, outside of that, the challenges are like, do we do Angie's List? I don't know, heard different things. Home Advisor, some people love them, some people hate them. Thumbtack, cheap leads, get a lot of them. Every now and then you find a needle in the haystack. BBB, do we advertise on these places like Yelp? It just goes on and on and on. And you can't just throw money around, right? So you've got to have a return for what you're spending. So one of the challenges, too many choices. So in today's world, there's amazing opportunity to really grow your company if you want to grow your company. And most people do. On occasion, I come across someone that says, hey, I've been there, rode that rodeo. It's a little bit too crazy. I'd rather just stop at like 4 crews. It's all I need. 4 crews, profitability is good. I don't need to grow it up any bigger. Totally fine. And you might not be at kind of a 4-crew type of company. Maybe you just have 1 or 2 and you're just okay breaking even, whatever. But I think you're on this webinar because you want to grow your company. You want to set goals. I just talked to someone yesterday and they said, hey, I didn't even mention it, but they said our goal for next year is to grow 20%. And I think that's a great goal. You can go 20%. Sometimes when you shoot a lot higher than that, you compromise in the quality of work and things get out of hand. So there's so many options and it's hard to figure out what should we budget, how much should we spend. And I want to help you try to clear up some of those thoughts. So marketing, as you know, it's a major investment. You got to spend money to get money, right? In a perfect world, you just get referrals. And people do really well after that, but you only take your company so far doing that. So too many people, and I've been there, I used to spend, I think the contract was $54,000 a year for mailers. We dropped 1 million mailers a month for 9 to 10 months. It was kind of like a Clipper magazine type of thing. That usually did well, not always. Sometimes you just spend a whole bunch of money and you don't get anything back for it, or very little. So there's another challenge here in that you could underspend. Sometimes you could hold that money so tightly that you lose opportunities. And with basement waterproofing foundation repair, a lot of times it's being in the right place at the right time, or it's a boat on the ocean and your sails are up and the wind comes and you're able to go along. If you've got your name out there and then it rains, it's like boom, like look out. You know what's going to happen. You get an onslaught of leads. And sometimes you don't want too many leads, right? Because then you can't cover them all and then you're kind of wasting money. So there's all these tensions. And when you're out there alone trying to figure out what do I spend, what do I not spend, how do I do this, having clear goals for the year and then how many leads do I need to get those goals, it's really going to help you answer a lot of those questions. So success is really maximizing your lead flow and hitting your goals. And that's what we're trying to do. You don't want to spend too much money on advertising. You don't want to spend too little. You want to make sure that you're tracking your return. So what are your goals? Brian Tracy, if you've been in the industry, if you've been in sales for a while, you know who this guy is, one of the top sales consultants in the world. He says success is goals and all else is commentary. But we got to put those goals into action. Now, if you've been around to conferences, I know you've heard this, but it's one thing to know it, and it's one thing to say, oh yeah, I've heard this, but you have to ask, am I applying this? Am I doing this? It's the Harvard study. The 1979 grads were interviewed, and there's 3 groups of those grads that fell in. So 84% of those people that graduated from Harvard, premier college in the world, 84% had no goals. 13% had goals, but not written down. I've talked to a lot of owners as well, and they say, yeah, I have goals. What are they? Well, I'm not sure. I haven't written them down. We always have goals in our head. And that's a group, hey, it's better than not having goals, right? But the last group had the 3%, they had clearly written goals with a plan to accomplish them. We want to be in that 3%, and I'll tell you why. Because 20 years later, they went back to those Harvard grads and they interviewed them. And check this out. 13% of the class who had goals were earning on average twice as much as the 84% who had no goals at all. Now that's crazy. That's a lot of money. It gets better. The 3% that had clear goals written down with a path on average were making 10 times more than the other 97%. Wow. Hope that works for you, but I got to think there's something to writing your goals down, even have like supporting goals, not just like one number, like, hey, I want to do 5 million next year. All right, you got to break that down. You need monthly goals, and then you need goals that are going to support those monthly goals. I remember interacting with an owner who is very successful in my network, and I went to visit him a couple times, and he had his goal written down on the wall behind him. So every time he sat behind that desk in his chair, he had to look at that goal, and it was a new goal every single month. Super goal focused. So what are your goals? If you're willing to put some information in the chat, if you could say, do you have a goal that's written down for 2021, a revenue goal? I love any kind of feedback. And then have you broken it down? Have you broken it down monthly? In basement waterproofing, it's usually more complicated than just dividing by 12 and saying, I want to do the same month or same amount every month, right? Because some months are better than other months. So I'll walk you through that as well. So if you have those monthly revenue goals or yearly goal, then we got to figure out how many leads do you need to hit that monthly goal. And then you got to chase that lead goal. Okay. So let me talk about goals a little bit. So yes, they need to be written down, and yes, you need a plan. So what I'm proposing is a 1-year goal with quarterly goals and monthly goals. So what I like to do, I think I've done 180 monthly reports, 4-page reports with like Excel sheets, just more detail than you'd want. Like, gross closing percentage, reject percentage, cancel percentage, net percentage, net percentage of lead cost, on and on and on, reset, kicks, confirmation percentage, all those. We did those by hand. I did 180 of them. And it helps sometimes to do it by hand, because then you're doing numbers, and sometimes you either find errors and you're saying, wait, this doesn't make sense. We're not following the procedures on how to collect this information because we're not being consistent. Or sometimes you see that you have a sales rep that's like nowhere in the park of where they should be closing, or something like that. And then you look into it, and then you realize the scheduler hates that sales rep, and they've been giving them like the worst leads in the house. Sometimes doing these reports, you find interesting things, right? It's real life. All right, so there has to be a starting point and there has to be an ending point. So monthly reports are good. And I mentioned I like to look at quarterly reports because there's trends that you see in quarterly reports. Sometimes if you're just focusing on a month, there might have been something that happened. Maybe a key employee was on a vacation, maybe someone was sick, maybe you got an onslaught of rain and it just threw everything off, or things happen. But when you're looking at 3 months, that's really a good indicator as to what's going on and what changes that you need to make. So let's focus on a revenue goal for the year, and then we'll break that down into monthly goals. And then I want to get into how many leads do you need to book, and then how many demos are required. I'll get into that language in a second. Companies use different language. What's your average sale, and then what's your net closing percentage? Now, again, some companies do, like, this is way too generic for them. They are splitting hairs, and they're micromanaging every single number, and every single manager has a number. There are 5 numbers that they're shooting for. And for other companies, this would be a step. This would be a really good step. What's important is that you do it, and that you set it. You have a habit or routine that every month you're evaluating this, you're putting a monthly report together, you're studying it, you're identifying areas of opportunity. And what I did is I always had 3 things at the end of the month. What are the 3 things that I'm going to focus on this month to improve the company? And then I always tried to touch each one of those 3 things every day before I put my fireman hat on and I run around and I put fires out in the company. Don't say you don't do it, because I know you do it. It happens, right? The crews go into a job site and they get a flat tire, and now you're calling a tow truck. It goes on and on and on. You have to run a lead. The customer's upset at the end of the job. It just happens. Stuff happens. So if you could try to touch those 3 important areas every single day, that's really going to create that habit and routine to kind of push the company forward using the reports. So this is a model that I made. You may be doing way, way more than this. You may not be there. I've talked to 2 companies in the last 7 days that they're around $1 million, give or take. Some are a little bit better. So this model I have, it's based on an annual revenue of $3 million. And so if you were to divide that 3 million by 12, starting with this, I'll break it down in a second. If you're starting with that, it's going to put you at about 250 a month. All right, just stay with me. I know, December is not May. We'll fix that in a second. Let's just follow the math. I'm using an average sale of 12,500. For some, your average sale is 8,000. And for others, we have a bunch of clients that have an average sale of 20,000. I'm using a net closing percentage of 20%. It's not bad. Some of you do better. Some of you, it's all kind of how you do the math and cut the hairs and so on. 20% gives me an easy number for math, so we can walk you through this. And then to hit those goals above, I would need to book 200 leads and get 100 demos out of that. And that's going to give me 20 sales. Now, what's a lead? A lead to me, in my world, it was a husband and wife. They have an eligible problem. They speak English, and they're the homeowners. You give me the 4 of those things. You have a window of, hour and a half to 2 hours. That's a lead. And it's booked and it's on the schedule. And the homeowners are expecting someone. That's a lead. Now, in today's world, maybe you're not always booking, the husband and the wife there. It happens. So you have to figure out what a lead is for you. The key is to be consistent. Whatever you did yesterday, you got to do it today, and you have to do it in the forward. That way you can measure the numbers. Okay, what's a demo? A demo, some people call them sits, some people call them presentations, some people call them demo. Again, you have to draw the line in the sand, and you have to be consistent. For me, there's a price on the table. Maybe there wasn't a drop. Maybe it wasn't a complete presentation, but if a number went on the table and it was offered to the homeowner, that was a complete presentation, and I'm counting that towards a closing percentage. It's just how it is. You have to draw the line somewhere. If you want something different, again, just be consistent. What I want to do now is I want to show you how I got these numbers. There are a couple assumptions here, and I'll explain what they are. Okay, so average revenue, 3 million monthly, 250, just divided that. Your average sale, you're going to have to figure out what your average sale is. That's one of the assumptions. So I use 12,500. You're going to have to decide, like if you are doing crack patching or you have some jobs that are only carbon fiber, and the average job there is going to be whatever it is. Let's say it's 2,000. That, do you want to pull those off and you just want to focus on the bigger jobs? You could do that. Or you could just throw everything into one pile. There's pros and cons to that, to either one. I won't go into details. You know what they are. All right, so 250,000 divided by that average sale of 12,500, and that gives you 20 sales for the month. I'm not at this stage chasing cancel rates, reject rates. What I've learned is that the people that book one-leggers and don't press hard at the end, they tend to have a pretty low cancel rate. And so if they're taking some off, it's minimal. Now, I know not everyone operates that way, right? So how many leads need to be booked to hit that? I'm saying 200 to get 100 demos. Now, where did I get that, and what the heck is that? You probably have a higher percentage than that. So I'm saying if we book 200 leads, husband and wife, eligible problem speaking English, and the time is there and they're homeowners. If you book 200 of those, of course, not all of them turn into demos. In today's world, because the majority of leads are considered media leads, where there's a high intent, you're probably at something like 75, 80%. I'm using 50% just to keep the numbers simple. But you have to know what that number is. You have to know what percentage of leads that you book turn into presentations or demos or sits, whatever your language is. All right, for this example, using 50%. So if we book 200 leads, we're going to get 100 presentations. We'll close 20%. That gives us 20 jobs. 20 jobs times 12,500 gives a revenue of 250,000. That's how it works. If you, I'll keep going here and I'm going to unpack this, but if you ever have questions, you're like, I'm lost here, call me. No big deal. Happy to help. Always want to help waterproofers succeed. Okay. So I'm going to take another swing at this. So what is the average lead book to demo? I said 50%. I unpacked that one. I'm saying 200 leads gives you about 100 demo rate. Now, again, your demo rate is going to be higher. And that having a higher demo rate is going to save you money. Because if you could do everything you can to turn these book leads into actual presentations, that's getting a better return of your investment, right? What's your net closing percentage? I'm using 20. You might have a higher one. Hope you do. You might have a lower one. Don't know. I'm using 20. So how many leads do you need? You need 200 for this one. But you have to do the math. If you can't do it on the fly here with my example, really commit to it. And if you get stuck, just call me. There's a chance I'll pick up the phone and I'll be available. There's a chance you have to leave a voicemail and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All right. I'm going to keep going here, unpacking a little bit more. What's your average conversion rate per leads? 50%. I talked about that. Why don't booked leads always turn into presentations? Competition got there before you did and sold it, and then they called your company and canceled the appointment. Rep was selling their 6 o'clock and they couldn't make the 8, and the homeowners got frustrated that you didn't show up and the appointment was set. Sure, that's never happened, right? And they refused to reschedule. Turned out it wasn't an eligible problem. The rep got there and it was a gutter problem, or it was a plumbing problem or something like that, and it doesn't turn into. So for all those reasons and many, many more, not all booked leads turn into presentations. All right, so divide your lead goal by your conversion rate. So I said 200 booked leads. Conversion rate, you've got to figure that out. You've got to manage that one, and you get 100 demos. All right, so that's where I'm reviewing this slide again. Annual revenue, 3,250,000, 12,500. Lots of ways. I'm going to talk about ways that you can increase your revenue and save money. Lots of different angles to do this. Okay, so not all months are created equal. So if you've been keeping yearly reports, and maybe you have, maybe you haven't, maybe even off the fly, you kind of know some months you do better than other months. If you put a model together like this, and what I did is I basically made 100% and I assigned a percentage. Actually, the best way to do this is go over the past 3 years. Take the past 3 years, add up January for the last 3 years, February last 3 years, so on, and then figure out what percentage of your total business is attributed to that month. And this will give you percentages. Now, if you don't have monthly reports like this, you're just going to kind of have to figure out, I'm sure you don't do, I'm sure your best month is not December. It's typically your least productive month. So in my model, I'm going with 4%, November 6%. March through October are always our best months. We usually had a dry month in there somewhere. And then August, September, October, one of those is always a killer month. Sometimes people are distracted with school starting up. Whatever it is, there's always a killer month in one of those 3. So now you're gonna need these percentages, and it's pretty darn easy using an Excel sheet to take those numbers and stick them in the second column. Just put your months on the left, put those percentages in the second column, and then all you have to do, if you look at the bottom column there, see those totals? You take the total number of leads that you need and you multiply it by, I'll take January. You're going to take 2,400, multiply it by 0.05, and you're going to get 120 leads. That's how many leads that you need to book to hit your goal of now a lower goal and more realistic goal of 150,000 for your 3 million a year model. Right? And then February, you take that 0.07 that we got from this slide, we put it in there, we multiply it by 2,400. Now you need 168 leads. Okay, let's look at the demo column. You'll notice it's half of whatever the total lead is, because my assumption is that I'm only sitting or doing presentations or demos of 50% of the total leads booked. Now, again, yours is going to be higher. Hopefully it's like 75 or 80. Okay, and then I put my closing percentage in there, and now the close percentage is the same for every month. Again, you always want to focus on that one, try to increase it, and that's going to give you your sales. Your average sale is given. There's ways to increase your average sale. Not sure if I'll get into that on this one. So then you have your revenue goal. So if you do a model like this, this is going to give you all your numbers that are important for leads and sales for the year. Now you've got to hit these goals. But this also gives you a plan for how much money you should be spending to generate, for example, in January, 120 leads or 168 or 240. Now, you don't know when it's going to rain, and neither do I. We kind of know some months are better than other months, but you can't really operate that way. You've got to plan ahead. You've got to be in the right place at the right time, and you've got to get your word out that your company is there, willing and able to serve people in the area to create dry, healthy basements. All right, if anyone has a problem with doing this math, please contact me. I want to help. Okay? 6 ways to hit your revenue goals and save money. Know your why. So if you ever heard of TED Talks, you've probably heard of this guy, Simon Sinek. One of the top 5 listened to TED Talks in the world. He talks about why, of course, the publishers wanted him to write a book to sell off the book and so on. But the key is, in 15 minutes, you can get the why. Why is knowing your why important? Because some mornings you're going to wake up and you're going to say, wow, another day at work, firestorms, I got to get back to these customers. This is getting old, I'm getting burned out. When you could go back to your why, and when your team embraces and internalizes your company's mission and why you exist, that you're helping people create dry, healthy, usable space in their basement so their families can enjoy that space. They maybe create bedrooms down there, offices, playroom for the kids, and people aren't going to get sick, and people have the peace of mind when they're on vacation that their sump pump's not going to fail, and they're going to get water in their basement. They could protect their valuables. They could use it for storage. When you know your why, when you believe in your business and the quality of work that you do, your pricing, your ethics, the way you treat people with respect, when you default to that, that gives you energy and passion and motivation to get up and say, you know what, I'm doing a good thing. I'm contributing to my community. I'm going to do this. So know your why, internalize it, and share that with others. Share that certainly with your management team. And one way to reinforce this, which I'll allude to later, is read your customer reviews. When you get your customer reviews, a lot of times who you are gets reflected in those reviews. And then when you read those reviews to your staff, it reinforces your why. It reinforces your mission as to why you exist. All right, coming from a totally different angle, make sure that your website converts as much traffic as possible. So when I was a waterproofer and a marketer told me like how many web visits that I have and how many minutes someone is spending on my website, that would freaking drive me crazy. Because what I want the phone to ring, and I want to book leads, and I want to get homeowners. I want to get my sales reps in front of homeowners. That pays the bills. Like website visits don't create leads. They don't create sales. I can't go to the bank and say, hey, do you realize how many web visits I have? I've had a lot last month. Who cares? So what you want is, yeah, you want web visitors, but you've got to convert those visitors into leads. Like they've got to call you, right? They've got to fill out web forms so your office can call them back. So here's a whole bunch of stuff for like a website that converts leads. Is your website, does it load quickly? And don't just check on desktop, but check on mobile. Now, we used to use GT Metrics. They updated their algorithm on how they measure stuff. I think they're working out some kinks because they've had some stuff. But if you use the Google website conversion insights, I think if you Google that phrase, it will come up. And they will measure your speed for desktop and for mobile. Look at both of them. You want to be 90% or higher. It's a SEO conversion factor, and it helps overcome ADD. Yes, I said that, because if people are waiting too long and they're sitting there, they're gone. You're going to go to another website. So have authentic images. Do they get to know you, or do you have the contractor with the yellow hat and the big smile and he looks like a model? Those images don't cut it. You put yourself up there. And a lot of owners that I talk to, they're not like, oh, I'm not that guy that's going to jump in front of a camera. Push yourself a little bit, but you need a picture of yourself, ideally a video, and pictures of your staff and pictures of your crews and your jobs and happy customers with the crews. Those are real authentic images. People want to see those. They help convert website visits to leads. And then showcase your reviews online, not only in Google, but put them on your website and make sure they're everywhere. All right. So make it easy to get in touch with your company. Do not play hide and seek with your phone number. Try to save every single click. I always like the phone number on the top right-hand side, like super easy to read. I like it big. I like the call now. I like sometimes putting hours there so they know they're going to get somebody versus a recording. I like the open sign, lots of little things that you could do. Make sure that web form is easy to fill out. There's a lot of debate on how long a web form should be. If it's super small, they're more than likely to fill it out. All the testing that I've seen, that I've done, and I've read about, if you add some extra questions, that's not going to stop someone from filling out a web form, and you can get the extra information. So don't worry about that. And make sure you have all your credible logos. You want the, insiders, like, right, BBB. I talk to owners like, do people really trust the BBB in today's age? Don't they know it's kind of like a, you pay them and you get a A+ rating kind of a thing? People still do. I'm not saying it's the most respected credential out there, but there's some people that still do. So if you have an A+ rating, put it out there, advertise it. The Angie's Super Service Award, your Basement Health Association certifications, your Star Awards in the Basement Health, all those things communicate to the customer that, hey, we're a top-notch company. If you're talking about trust and professionalism, we're in that boat at least. You want that. I mentioned call now. I like chat and I like texting. And I think that I'm going to cover this in a second, but to me, it's another line in the water. It's pretty easy to use. When the person gets there, they log in and now it's available. And then at the end of the day, they log out. But some, more and more people are using chat and they're comfortable with it. And then try to leverage any kind of marketing automation. I'm going to slip in a quick announcement, make sure everyone's paying attention. But I did our third podcast interview, and the person that I interviewed, by the way, if you want to watch or listen to the first Basement Waterproofing Foundation Repair podcast, just go to your favorite podcasting platform and type in Rainmaker for Contractors, and you should get a podcast. But the gentleman that I interviewed, he says, boy, we are using these automation reminders to let people know we're coming, and people really like them. They get good feedback. They send the sales reps bio and so on. So I'm a believer in that. We have a whole bunch of resources for you. There is one specifically for website conversions. If you go to Rainmaker for Contractors /free resources, free-resources, it's on the top of your screen there. Download it. It's free. There's no cost. May it be a tool for you to make your website more convertible. All right. Take a moment, if you could, and write down just 1, 2, or 3 things that you think you could improve on that you've heard so far, specifically to your website or anything else. When you use a pen and you write it down, you're using a different part of your brain, and it's going to help you remember that. So try to do that now. If you want to put it in the chat, you can. All right. A lot of information. We're moving along. You're doing great. Thanks for paying attention here. All right, number 3, customer review culture. Boy, we have a lot of conversations with our clients about customer reviews. We provide a software, but here's some questions. It's one thing to say like, yeah, we get customer reviews, and yeah, I know it's important. That's good. What I like to do is raise the bar and say, do you have a culture of customer reviews? When you have a culture, you have employees that have internalized the value of customer reviews. And then there's habits and routines that are in place that support a company that has a culture of customer reviews. Here's some questions to ask. Are you asking for reviews on 90% of your jobs completed? Not talking about the job that takes a week and everything's amazing and you went way above and beyond and the lady found a cigarette butt in the front lawn and gave you a 3-star review. And don't, the people that like you can't please no matter what you do, don't ask for reviews. But I'm talking about the majority, right? Like at least 90% of the customers probably love you and so on. Every now and then you're going to run into a difficult customer. I just tend to avoid those. Do you have a monthly posted goal for a number of reviews? So let's say you have 40 reviews on your Google listing. So I think Google is the most important place to have your reviews if you're going to ask for one place. They don't have a Gmail account. There's different things you could do. Let's focus on getting reviews there. If you have 40, I'm guessing, let's see, it's the middle of January. By the end of the month, I bet you can get 45 if you worked hard. And what you could do is you could post that goal and, you could start over in February and give people a longer month, but you could post that goal and you could say, if we could hit 45 reviews on our Google listing, and it has to be real, right? Then do something for your staff. And it may be, 1, 2, 3 people, it may be a staff of 6, 7 people, whatever it is, maybe the whole company, but do something to reward them. Companies, when they value certain numbers, they talk about it and they reward employees for getting there. You can't do it all yourself and try it. I mean, it's a good step to assign that job of getting reviews, but it's even better when you can empower the whole company to get reviews. All right. I mentioned this earlier. When you do a staff meeting, I always like to start the staff meeting with reading 2 reviews. It brings positive energy to a meeting. It acknowledges people. The number one thing that employees want, they want acknowledgement. So when I could read that, I could say, hey, Sue, you booked this lead. Nice job. Jim, you ran this lead and sold it. Great job. And Dominic, you installed this lead. You installed the job with your crew. Awesome job. And I could say, Kim, you did the order processing. This is a finance job and you got them approved and you had interaction as well, a team effort. I just acknowledged 4 different people and I started the meeting in a positive way and I reinforced our mission. So these are really good things to do. I also would post these everyone's got some just phenomenal reviews. You're just like, man, I wish everyone felt this way about us, right? When you have 2 or 3 of those, get them blown up and put them on the wall in your office. That's really empowering to see that. And it reminds everybody, it calls everyone to say, hey, this is what we're striving for. We've done it before, we could do it again. And then our employees incentivize in some ways to get reviews. You don't want to incentivize customers. That's a no-no. It's crossing the line. You don't want to do that, but you could incentivize your employees. You could buy a staff lunch. You could do an outing, go to Topgolf, have fun as just a reward for everybody. Okay, increase your closing percentage. I won't spend a lot of time here, I think, but brainstorm together. What are some ways to increase your closing percentage? Now, one of the things that I've learned is some managers will look at closing percentage, and that's good. And they kind of hold reps accountable for that. That's good. I think it's even more effective if you could hold reps accountable and encourage them in their habits and routines to do things that support the closing percentage. So when I was a sales manager, my reps always brought things like their pictures, their questionnaire, why the customer wants basement waterproofing, and do they understand how moisture is affecting their basement? Is it health issues? Is it for storage? Is it for more usage? And when you have those things in place, those are supporting goals to a closing percentage. That also encourages full presentations and coming from help instead of like, did we sell it or not? Because homeowners are smart. They sniff that out. Is this rep have commission breath, or are they really here to help? And you want your reps to be doing full presentations on every single lead. Those reps are expensive. Those reps are expensive too, but those leads are expensive. So you want to take care of them and do a good job and not prejudge. All right. Know and track your KPIs. You know, you're spending a lot of money. You need to know where the money's going and what kind of return you're getting from it. Lastly, you know, work with an agency that specializes in basement waterproofing. We've had two waterproofers come on board in the last 2.5 weeks, and they said the same exact thing. Yesterday I was on a call that they're not on board yet, but they said, gosh, this other agency that I used, go to our social media page. Check this out. Does that make any sense to you? It doesn't even fit our industry. They don't understand us. So if you're thinking of an agency, I know one. Give me a call. All right, so a lot of information. We're going fast. What are some takeaways? What are 3 things that you want to improve on? I asked this earlier. I hope by now you have 3 things. You know, you put time aside in your schedule. You try to write something down, try to apply it and make it happen. One of the things that I always had a top 10 list. Because we know what it's like owning a waterproofing company. You're running around with your head cut off sometimes, right? And if I had my top 10 list, these are things that I'm going to improve on. And sometimes I had 1 and 2 down and I had 7. And when I do number 7 and 1 and 2, you know, I put a line through it. And until I did all those things, I'm not starting a new top 10 list. So finish that top 10 list, there's something else. There's always something to improve on. So what are 3 things that you can improve on? All right, so far we talked about clear goals, targeting for 2021. Make sure your website is optimized for lead conversion, how to save money and hit your revenue goal. I want to briefly touch on some trends. Now this one is it's got to move fast, and I think they're important though. So here's some trends that I see. I think there's more and more people that are comfortable with texting and with chat. And so for decades, literally, we're thinking they're going to call us and we're going to book that lead. And more people are using online calendars. They're using chat. Hey, can you have someone out here? You need to be open to that. You're going to get more leads, the more kind of fishing lines that you have in the water. Not everyone wants to pick up the phone, especially millennials. So just be open to that. All right, more authentic websites, real images, real jobs, real people. Allow people, like, you know, don't be the Wizard of Oz, like unveil the curtain and let them see who you are. And don't be camera shy, like get in front of the camera and do videos and then do more videos. Let people see who you are. They want to trust you, but give them an opportunity to trust you. Real quick story, someone else on the board and I were shopping for a new management company for the Basement Health Association. I think we had 25 applicants. And I can't tell you how many companies we ruled out to not even go past the first step because they had basically a horrible website. It looked like a mom and pop shop, and it looked like it was 5 pages with horrible content, and we didn't know who they were, and we didn't have time to call all 25 people and do interviews and so on. So it was pretty easy to identify, you know, 10 people that were just in a totally different category, and we were basing that off of their website. So more authentic images, videos, this helps people know who you are. They want to connect, and they're doing that before they're picking up the phone. This isn't 1980 anymore where you have 3 big yellow page ads. They're doing all the research before they're even picking it up. I think the winners are going to be people that are all in. The companies that are doing local SEO, Google ads, Facebook ads, Home Advisor, they got reviews down. There's a culture of reviews. They're using live chat and texting, follow-up, and their KPIs, like they're all in and they're on that. I think those are going to be the winners. Those are the companies that are really going to grow. And then lastly, because of Google and Facebook's algorithm and their technology, these 2 monster companies are using artificial intelligence to find people that you want to advertise to. So I think what we're going to see is Google and Facebook, leveraging that artificial intelligence to do lead generation, but you've got to be able to do that. So these are trends. Just wanted to throw that out there. This is where I think more and more of it's going. So how many leads do you need to hit your revenue goal? And then how many leads in sales per month and what lead sources? Now, the thing that I'm not really unpacking, if you have questions on this now, I'm happy to answer them. But you're going to have to figure out what lead sources are going to hit the number of leads that you need per month. And as we talked about in the beginning, there certainly are a lot of opportunities. Here's where it gets challenging for me. Some of you do great, for example, say with Google Ads and local SEO. Some of you do great with referrals and Home Advisor. Some of you are killing it on Angie's List, and everyone's got a different thing that they're working. And if it's working well for you, keep doing it. Now, if you're in the market to be looking for different lead sources, my advice for you is to not jump in with both feet and just back up the truck and throw a bunch of money. You've got to understand leads, and you've got to understand how the system works, and how, like, even for Home Advisor, there's this thing called lead credit. And I've seen many, many reports, and I know probably over half of the people using Home Advisor are not getting the lead credit they should be, probably even more than that. Because you get bogus leads and Home Advisor sells them to you, and you're like, okay, well, I'm too busy to submit a lead credit, or I did it twice and they kicked it. So I don't feel like arguing with them. I have other fires to put out. And I get it. But there's kind of ins and outs of every lead source. With Home Advisor, for example, if you just jump in that lead and you don't get that, it's really helpful to be the first guy out and you got to follow up immediately. You're going to waste a lot of money. So every lead source has kind of its ins and outs. And so if you embrace a new lead source, kind of like try to master that one before you jump onto the next one. And then have tracking in place. You really want to know where your leads are coming from, where your money's coming from, what your return is, so that you can make intelligent decisions. Gosh, the best thing that I had when I owned basement waterproofing is just a report, like a monthly report, a quarterly report. I mean, I could just look at it and I knew everything that was going on in my company. I knew the strengths, I knew the weaknesses, I knew what all the sales reps were doing, I knew how many leads they're getting. Everything was right there. And you get really good at identifying numbers and going like, okay, I see that number. I think there's an issue in the scheduling department. I think that person needs training just because of the number, because you know what the goal is and you know what the number is. So get that monthly report in place and then use it. Identify your top 3 items that you want to work on for the month. Create a routine that every day you're going to try to touch those top 3 items to just kind of push the ball forward for the company, and do that before you start, wearing your fireman hat. So at Rainmaker, again, this is what we do. We focus on all 8 of those, and that's how we create dominance for our clients. And quite honestly, we're always adding little tweaks and always improving, because that's brings us a lot of joy, satisfaction, just improving things. All right, what are your action items? Is it, I need a website. I got to review these website factors because I'm getting all these web visitors, but they're not turning into leads. I've got to get more authentic images. Hey, maybe I should do live chat. Times are changing. I need to be updated with the technology. Maybe you want to send reminders out to homeowners. What are they? Write those down. Maybe you just want to start on your reports. Do you have a monthly report? How broken down is it? Can you take it to the next level? If you're going to focus on reports, don't go too crazy, because you really need to try to vision, will I do this every single month? Will I set time? How many times have we said, yeah, I'll get to it. And before you know it, like 3 months went by and you're like, wow, okay, blown opportunities. So don't bite off more than what you could chew. Try to create those habits and routines and discipline. All right, so takeaways, learns. If you have any questions, now is a great time to ask. We covered goals. We covered monthly goals. You're going to have to figure out how many leads and what lead sources you're going to use to hit those goals, how to optimize your website. We talked about trends, talked about developing a customized plan. If you have any questions on this now or later, feel free to contact me, help you out. And that's where we're at. If you want a free strategy session on, hey, I'm not 100% sure how my agency is doing. If you can kind of give me some reports and shortly, briefly review them, we'll give you not only analysis of what's going on, but we'd give you a game plan. Whether you ended up working with us or not, that's up to you. But we're happy to provide that at no cost. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have questions, feel free to call or reach out to us. And I am cheering you on. I hope you have a great 2021.